After the recruits complete their training, they return back to their normal jobs, to their normal lives, but they keep their firearm with them in their home.
All right, y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Okay, so today we're checking out another video from the Johnny Harris YouTube channel. Now, we've checked out a video previously from his channel that was about Switzerland and all of their tunnels and bunkers and how comprehensive that entire system was inside their country. But this is all about their guns. So this is specifically titled, Why the Swiss Love Their Guns More Than Americans, which is kind of a bold claim, I will say, as an American who has a bunch of guns. I'll say it's a pretty bold claim. So I kind of wonder what Switzerland's gun laws and also what their gun obsession actually looks like, as far as, you know, because I feel like in America, it's kind of pervaded into popular culture, into social media, pretty far and wide. And I don't think I can really say the same about Switzerland, but again, that's coming from the American perspective. So I'm excited to check this one out. It's about 38 minutes long, so I'll try not to pause it because, you know, that is going to make for like an hour-long video, but it should be interesting regardless. So let's check it out.
Jesus.
Oh, it's a 12 gauge. I was like, what is he shooting?
What just happened?
Got 50 Beowulf? Interesting range setup.
Of Switzerland, and there's a big festival going on. Everyone has the day
Was that an Uzi? Wait, so this is a festival? This is like literally like a pop-up thing?
off. They're all
pretty nice.
gathering to have a good time to celebrate guns.
No kidding.
It's a shooting competition for teenagers, and they've been doing this for hundreds of years.
So they're proper, real firearms.
It used to just be boys, but now it's boys and girls, and the winner is deemed the king or queen of shooting.
Erstmal Knabenschiessen, gell?
Okay.
Sehr schön.
Gerade gewonnen.
Ja,
Wie fühlt sich das an?
das fühlt sich sehr gut an. Ich bin wirklich stolz drauf.
Yeah, I mean, they got brass
Switzerland
catchers
is
and
a
stuff
peaceful,
too.
neutral country, and yet it is full of guns.
Okay.
The government gives its citizens guns and trains them how to shoot. Every village is required to have access to a shooting range.
We have
Okay, whoa. Okay, that already beats America in a lot of ways. Wait, so they're provided guns and it's literally mandated for them to have a shooting range? That's pretty badass.
almost as many guns per head or per person here as in America.
Back home in the United States, we
Really?
also have a lot of guns. But the culture around guns is a little different.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
In the country,
I mean, or just
Switzerland
gun
proves that
tubers.
There's no need
That's a
for
thing.
more gun rules.
Guns
That's
the
pretty
number
cool.
one cause of death among children in the United States, yet we don't have the will to stop it.
Switzerland has the lowest crime rate in Europe.
That's all we have at this point. God and our guns.
I really want to get to the bottom of this gun culture thing, why these two countries have such vastly different relationships with guns. So I delved deeper than I usually delve, and found myself digging through
Okay.
old literature from Scottish political philosophers and looking into the constitutional archives, talking to Second Amendment experts, talking to military
Jeez,
historians
okay.
from Switzerland, and it's finally
Someone's got to help him with the shooting stance, though.
So, as a side note to this story, I've been finding a lot of bunkers in Switzerland, which, if you all remember, a year ago from right now, I published a video about all of the bunkers hiding in Switzerland.
Great
And
video.
Now that I'm here again, I find myself stumbling upon more and more bunkers. Anyway, I also want to tell you that
It's just hiking
my
in the
trip
middle
here to
of
Switzerland,
nowhere.
my ability to go around and shoot at shooting ranges and spend months diving into Swiss history is made
Months?
possible because of our generous sponsors who come back
Oh, okay.
month after month
All right, hey, can't be upset with that sponsor.
here shooting guns and learning a lot about firearms. Let's go.
Let's do it. I'm excited. We've seen a lot of pretty interesting guns already.
There's the
Some
shooting
newer,
range,
some older.
and the targets are on this side. Oh yeah, there's the targets. Oh, I hear them. Holy smoke! So they're literally shooting over the road, right there.
Really?
God, there's people. Jeez, there are bullets flying over our head right now.
I've seen that before,
That-
but
That is such a weird feeling.
that's
Headed
so
to a shooting
trippy.
competition right now at this shooting range, surrounded by beautiful Swiss mountains. The sound of these guns.
What a view, man.
God, it's like a war zone.
Okay, not quite.
It's only 6
but-
rounds,
Yeah,
but it's single loaded. So you always have to,
you always have to cock it. Yeah.
then you can make the rig wider,
So what are those attachments then?
and you can even.
Are they like synced with the target itself?
As I'm standing here, you realize like the cars are right there. You could easily shoot them if you wanted to, if you were standing up. Like I knew that this existed. I saw the Tom Scott video a few months ago. I thought it was like,
Oh, okay,
there
I
was
did see
one
that, okay.
crazy shooting range in Switzerland that goes over a road. I didn't realize it was common.
That is weird. I mean,
It's a
they have
friendly
plenty of
competition.
space.
It's all very wholesome. You see these young kids that are like keeping score, tabulating all of the results. I've been hanging out with the president of one of these shooting clubs, trying to understand a little bit better about what this event and things like this represent for these communities.
The military
It looks cool, but again, like the range setups look very, very different from what you'd see in the U.S. As far as one, again, I'm still trying to figure out what exactly they're attaching to their weapons, but then they're also kind of shooting through this cylinder, so it's pretty much only marksmanship style shooting, not necessarily, so far at least what we've seen, not necessarily like kind of combat oriented self-defense shooting. And again, I guess it's probably not necessarily the focus here.
law tells all the villages that they need to provide a shooting range or a possibility to shoot.
After a while of observing this competition, they told me that it was my turn to shoot. But first, I needed to learn how to use one of these guns.
We got the ammo, military provided at a discount.
Just try again.
No kidding.
So,
So you're right hand,
Oh, yeah.
right-handed?
yep, I'm right-handed.
How do you
Is there a
aim?
telescope in there? Like, how am I seeing that far
That's
down?
a cool little
No,
attachment
there's no
thing there,
Telescope.
like
Oh,
a,
that's what makes it.
You're not
Placard
allowed
to
to use
help.
any sights, any optics at any competitions in Switzerland.
Okay, so you're gonna make sure I don't hit any of these cars.
really?
Now you're not,
just
you're not
irons,
able
huh?
to see any cars anymore.
Nope.
That's
no
kind of
more.
whack.
Okay, so no more cars. No more problems about that.
Yes.
Maybe, yeah, move a little bit further, yeah. You're ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Now it's loaded. It's ready to shoot.
Oh my god.
Just got real for him.
Target 19.
Target
Yeah,
19.
those sides
Let's
are
go.
so odd.
Very slow. Now you pulled all the way through.
Oh, I did. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I forgot
That's
about
why
that.
normally we train how that works. But you hit the target.
I hit the target.
Yeah.
That's good.
You
Okay.
actually hit the target.
So I don't know. It doesn't look like it's. I mean, unless they have like cameras set up at the target itself, that's pretty freaking dope. But also kind of high maintenance as well. But I mean, I guess it's pretty freaking convenient. You don't have to have like everybody ceasing fire to go and check targets or move targets. But yeah, it's a little bit limiting. I'm still trying to figure out what is going on. I'm guessing this is just like a brass catcher, brass deflector kind of thing. But yeah, they have a few extra little attachments here. I've not seen that kind of attachment for the rear sight.
That's good.
Oh, there
now-
we go.
Now we saw it.
I'm getting better.
As I shot in my first gun competition, I was
Okay,
surprised
so-
that my instructor kept telling me to relax, to breathe, to turn inward.
Exactly.
Yeah, that felt
Now
way
we
more
hit
relaxed.
the 10.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
Wow. I turned inward, relaxed, and I hit the 10.
Yeah.
Sharpshooter over here. Wow, this is addictive. I definitely see, like, I'm like,
Just
I
a
could do this all
crazy
day.
range setup, man.
So this is like relaxing or calming down for me. Sometimes I feel like going into another world. You turn your focus from focusing outside, you're focusing inside.
But I feel like at this point you might as well just have like the trainers or like the pneumatic guns or shooting, I don't know, blanks with lasers or something. It's just not as satisfying to be shooting and then just kind of see a digital screen.
This is fun, objectively.
In my
this is just
opinion.
fun.
But that,
And
yeah,
it's
it does
beautiful, and
look
looking at
fun.
the Swiss countryside. It's great.
Whoa.
My experience with guns as a kid,
He
I
looks
would
official.
go out into the forest and like blow up like glass bottles with shotguns.
That's what I think America is all about.
Hell yeah.
Wow, that was awesome. I kind of want to shoot again. I never thought I'd say this. Like, I'm not a gun person, but I'm like, I kind of want to like shoot more. Like, this is so fun.
I was struck by how peaceful
fun.
and celebratory and wholesome this all was. So much different than the way guns are presented in the USA.
Like, I would say for the most part here in Washington, people, like, the gun culture is awesome. A lot of classes, a lot of people coming together, going to the mountains and being relatively responsible kind of in how they're shooting certain things. But yeah, I will say sometimes, yeah, it can just be like people just bringing out an entire TV and decimating it and then just kind of leaving it there.
Get here.
We're about to go way back then, huh?
The story of Switzerland starts here. Well, actually down there at that lake in a little green valley where a group of people came together and made a promise to each other 700 years ago. And with that promise came a myth.
Ooh. The editing is so
The
good.
hero's name was William Tell, and legend has it that one day he refused to bow down to the king's local leader. It was a daring act of disrespect. So as punishment, the overlord forced him to shoot an apple off his own son's head. Tell aimed his crossbow carefully.
Oh, a
and
crossbow,
released.
yeah, true.
He made the perfect shot. He continued to defy the ruler, and eventually inspired
Whew.
the tribes in this
Savage.
region to launch a rebellion. Tell eventually shot the ruler dead, and the rebels were going to win their independence, banding
He's like,
together to start the Confederacy.
"Thanks
that
for the
would become
practice."
Switzerland. They first made an agreement that they
No
would
kidding.
protect one another, but instead of forming a full-time standing army run by a king, they would arm and train ordinary people to fight. So not an army at all,
Nice.
but rather a militia.
Oh yeah. Okay, so a lot like America in a few ways.
I'm now going into
Man,
a
it just looks so
shooting
cool.
range that is in the mountain in a dugout bunker. Very Swiss.
Oh, this is gonna be cool.
It feels like the old
No
bunker
pistols
days.
I'm seeing so
Exploring
far.
a bunker, but I'm in a shooting range.
Besides the 500 Magnum, I think.
It's like a maze in the mountain with just a bunch of rooms shooting.
That looks
so now
so
I'm fully
cool.
loaded. Safety off. I'm gonna take safety off.
Jeez.
Yeah, if you're on the target, and you want to shoot, you can take the safety off.
Okay.
Or not.
Okay.
Oh, is these? Oh, look at that. They got shooting tables and stuff. Again, though, I feel like that's a weird looking firearm. Again, I feel like you might as well just have like an electronic, because I feel like in a weird way you don't really like need all this space if you're just kind of looking at this screen. I guess, yeah, you are still kind of considering the ballistics of the weapon, and it's a real kind of functioning firing weapon. So you're getting that kind of experience, but yeah, again, it's just a weird kind of disconnect, I guess.
Shooting in the bunker is a completely different experience. Like, you feel the vibration of your entire body because the echo is so extreme.
Yeah, it must be so
Better at
loud.
shooting.
Yeah. That's cool. Oh damn, they're getting some fancy guns out.
2 days ago.
Here we go. Dude, the editing.
So
man,
back to
is
1600s
freaking
Europe,
awesome.
where Switzerland remained this one peaceful confederacy protected by its citizen militia. Meanwhile, in the rest of Europe, greedy kings were using their huge standing armies to conquer one another, while Switzerland
fired.
stood by training its citizens in the ways of war.
Nice.
Swiss citizens got so good at fighting that the Pope hired them as his personal protectors.
Yep.
Other empires would even hire
Reacted
Swiss
to them.
soldiers to fight their own wars. But Switzerland itself remained almost entirely out of these conflicts on the continent. Eventually, European thinkers start to notice this peculiar Alpine confederacy, Switzerland, this place that trains their citizens to fight, and miraculously showed.
Oh my gosh, dude, this this editing is just insanely cool. Just very, very well done.
That you can have a republic, even in Europe, a sea of monarchy and kings.
I've been reading a lot of old European political literature, and you start to see this phrase pop up to describe how Switzerland defends itself using a well-regulated militia.
Oh, snap.
I saw this term a lot when I was looking through this old literature.
Really, that's straight
Around
out of the
1610, this British
Second
diplomat
Amendment.
goes to Switzerland and gawks at their well-regulated militia, how they can overturn their government at pleasure because they all know how to fight.
By the way, back in the 1600s, well-regulated militia meant a well-organized or efficiently run militia, not
That is actually really cool how he made that discernment, because that's something that a lot of people will bring up, y'all, it's a well-regulated militia, but that's not necessarily what the the term meant back then. So I wonder who said it first. Was it the Swiss or the Americans that kind of coined that term? Sounds like the Swiss were using it for a while.
regulated in the way that we think of it today. But yeah, the idea was if you arm everyone in your society and you train them, that's actually the key to the best defense and the best preservation of freedom for the people, not just the king. This idea of a well-regulated militia spread across the ocean to a group of British intellectuals who were secretly conspiring to overthrow their own king.
In 1776, they declared independence, using their own well-regulated militia to fight off a tyrannical king and his standing army. As they fought this war, a leader from Switzerland wrote to Benjamin Franklin, suggesting that this new rebel experiment called the United States should become sister republics with Switzerland.
That is so
The
cool,
Americans
dude.
somehow won this war and got to work designing their new country.
Damn, okay.
They sat down in a
Brotherhood goes deep.
church-looking building to draft the document that would be the foundation of this experiment, a system free of kings. The founders studied the political systems of Greece and Rome. They studied the British Magna Carta, Native American confederacies, European philosophers.
Then there was John Adams, one of the
So
founders
cool.
who was kind of obsessed with Switzerland at this time. He studied their system, and he was amazed at how their militia worked, how they required everyone to have a gun and to have ammo, and they wouldn't let them get married unless they did. He wrote all about this in a treatise on different government systems
Really?
right before he wrote the Constitution with his fellow co-founders. Switzerland was a model. It was
That's
the
awesome.
republic that had resisted tyranny and been able to stay free in a Europe full of kings. And when it came time to write the actual Constitution, you can see that
That was a great
militia
quote
was
right there.
enshrined in the Constitution itself. In the Constitution, the role of the militia is to protect the government, to protect the country from invasion or insurrection.
Nice, dude. That's badass.
And then
Damn,
after
okay,
the
Switzerland.
Constitution,
Respect.
it became time to draft that sacred list of the most fundamental rights that would ensure that the American project remained free and full of liberty. The first
What
of
a
these
fit
10
that dude
amendments
was
would
wearing.
be freedom of speech and of expression, assembly, religion, and the press. But right after that, they write the Second Amendment, and it's about the well-regulated militia being vital, being necessary for the security of a free country. So to have a militia, the people must have arms. They must have a right to have guns. So now you have the Constitution, the Bill of Rights and the Second Amendment, and then a few years later, the well-regulated militia idea got enshrined in law when one of the first Congresses passed
Hell
a
yeah,
law
dude.
that said that every man doesn't just have the right to have a gun, but is required to have a gun and ammo and must train to use it so that the president could call on its armed citizens as its mechanism for defense. This
Dude,
whole
like,
legal framework was
when they
very
get the
clearly
documents up there, it's
yes,
so
you
cool.
can have guns, but only if you are ready to use them to defend our country from invasion or insurrection. And
Dude, props for the amount of research that must have gone into this. Holy cow. And just again, the artwork they're using and the freaking edits. Jeez Louise.
Sure enough, George Washington had to actually use
Mind-blowing.
this. There was this rebellion in Pennsylvania over taxes, and George Washington called up his armed citizens to march and tamp down on these rebels, and it totally worked. The militia system was working for this young nation to ensure its freedoms with an armed citizenry, something Switzerland had been doing for centuries.
Look at that
Guns started
background,
out as a
jeez.
symbol of collective security, as collective defense, armed citizens ready to stand up to defend the country. But needless to say, things kind of changed when it came to guns in America. So how we got from that to this is the next part
Hell
of this
yeah.
video. And in my mind,
Shooting
it's the
cans
most
is boring,
interesting
though, to be
version of this
honest.
story because it shows us how Switzerland and the United States diverged so severely
Well, I guess it depends like how you're doing it.
from this militia culture. Okay, but before we get to that, I want to show you more about Switzerland today. Show you what it looks like when a country sticks to an actual militia system as their primary
Yeah,
tool
let's
for
see
national
it, dude.
defense. Okay.
All I know is like the Swiss Pontifical Guards, like, or Pontifical Swiss Guards. Yeah,
To better
no
understand
guns
gun
really
ownership
involved
in
in that.
Switzerland, I visited a member of the
Traditionally, when
Swiss
you
Army.
picture it.
Nice to meet you.
Hey.
Can I see your gun?
Of course.
That's why I'm here.
I want to play some. Where's Waldo? Where's the assault rifle?
Oh my gosh, I already see it. So you used to have a gun.
American discussions right there.
You want to carry it?
Okay. What's interesting to me is like for you, this is like no big deal. For me, this is a giant gun. Like this is I don't handle guns.
That
like,
folding
I held
stock,
a gun
that's
like this
cool.
for the first time like 2 days ago. For the very
No
first
way.
time in my life.
No way.
Yes.
Actually.
I'm an American.
I was about to.
Honestly, that's a pretty valid reaction.
I was about to. That's very uncliche.
Yes.
Switzerland still has a militia. Every able-bodied man in Switzerland is given a uniform and a gun and required to join the military.
So, and this is in the,
Oh.
this is in the Constitution.
I feel like I
There.
didn't know that
Man
before.
can
Interesting.
be forced- not only forced to do military service, but also forced to make more. So instead of 21 weeks, I did 37 weeks. And in total, I have to do like 450 days.
Up until the 90s, you would go to jail if you refused
Okay.
to do this. Now you just have to pay 3% of your income if you don't.
I was also
For
very
how long?
against the military, and I went reluctantly.
One of the first things you do in this initial training is you come to one of these clubs and you learn to shoot.
It was kind of scary, actually, because it's all like 18 to 20-year-old guys, and just like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to shoot this gun now. And it's like, here's ammunition,
That's the dream right there. I was so excited to move into that.
After the recruits complete their training, they return back to their normal jobs, to their normal lives, but they keep their firearm with them in their home. And then they're required to come to one of these private clubs every year to practice shooting.
Die Armeeangehörigen müssen jedes Jahr eigentlich obligatorisch schießen und wir tun eigentlich mit dem Staat.
The language sounds
It's
crazy.
called the obligatorisch. So it's obligatory or mandatory for the people
At
to
least she
shoot.
sounds like a narrator, though.
Shooting book. Every time I shoot, there is
Really? So it's obligated for that.
a little report. Somebody has to sign it. Of course, when you go shooting, you just take this out.
Interesting.
It's just like this. Wow. And then you go to the public transport, just like that.
You're just walking around on the
That's
train with your
awesome.
gun?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's actually similar to what the
Dude.
United States national defense strategy looked in like the 1800s, where every able-bodied man had a gun and was required to use it, required to be ready to defend the country from invasion or insurrection.
Part of this is also
Oh, yeah.
being able to fight if it would be necessary, just to protect our country. And this self-defense thinking is part of our our people and from Switzerland.
What Switzerland
Nice,
doesn't
dude,
have
okay,
that we have in the
Switzerland,
United
doing it
States
right.
is a Second Amendment, an articulated, unambiguous right to have guns. Instead, guns are articulated mostly as a duty to protect the country. And then, secondly, comes the privilege to use guns, to compete with them, to own guns, etc. For them, the duty came first.
We have a tradition of more of a liberty tradition, and there it's more of a responsibility tradition.
Essentially, everybody has to go. So this is kind of like one thing that unifies a lot of the male population.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
That's
just
so
like,
cool.
You can meet a guy, and if he's done military service as well, you can talk for hours and hours and hours. And
That's what I first noticed when I went to Israel. It's just like everybody kind of understands the military. Everybody's so kind of desensitized to it. There's like there wasn't really like any haters that I saw. Here in the U.S., of course, like you have the right to kind of have your own opinions and whatnot. And sometimes, you know, you'll have a lot of people that are kind of against the military and kind of vocalize that. But it wasn't so much the case when I went to Israel and kind of seeing that. And kind of the same thing when I went to Korea as well, because again, they do have that mandatory conscription as well.
And this to me makes all the difference. Like these two different purposes of guns in society, whether they are a right for individuals or the duty of the collective. I think this is a major factor that divides these two gun cultures.
If you could describe Swiss
It's a good point,
shooting
but
culture in
culture
3
in
words,
general kind of
what would those
shifted.
words be?
Wettkampf, Kameradschaft, Tradition.
And this is where it all clicked for me.
I mean,
had
not
thought that
totally unlike the
Switzerland's
US.
gun culture was the product of smart laws and gun policies. But being here, it was becoming clear that it was the militia system that was at the root of all of this. The requirement for every man to learn how to shoot as the main strategy for collective national defense. Turning guns into a symbol of community and celebration.
Dude, I bet the Swiss are freaking amazing shooters then. I kind of wonder how many like Swiss competitors and stuff usually come on top when it comes to like international shooting competitions.
The center of large festivals all over the country, where Swiss traditions are celebrated with firearms at the center. Like that teen shooting competition in Zurich. Or this important
Nice.
shooting festival that takes place at the foot of the Alps along a beautiful Swiss lake. The place
Dude,
where the founders
it's
of
so cool.
Switzerland formed their confederacy in 1291.
You have so many members of the community
Okay,
coming out
interesting.
and participating in them. You're going to have fun. The shooting is fun. They'll have music. After you're done shooting, you can have some beer or wine, and it's a family affair. And so they kept that alive.
Sounds like a good time.
Das untereinander mit sich zusammensehen und so weiter. Und da hat es alle dort hat's von Arbeitern, von Angestellten bis zu Unternehmern, dort sind alle dort. Also es ist eine Gemeinschaft, oder?
Dude, that's the way to do it, man. It's all about the
Okay,
community.
we're at yet another gun club, and once again, this gun
Shitting
club
other egg.
has a target that goes right over the top of a highway. I'm here to continue to learn what the deal is with Swiss gun culture and to see if I can get a better score than I did last time. Okay, so this is the gun.
He's
we're
getting
shooting
hooked
today.
now.
Gonna give it a go here? Oh, there's a kick. There's a kick on this one. Okay, here it goes.
Say what? Hey, that wasn't bad.
Okay.
I was like looking for the holes that you see in like the barricade they have here.
Okay. Man, the sound like echoes through the valley. Oh,
That's
okay.
cool. He's got to work on his follow through.
Beginner's luck continues. Wow.
Okay. Hey, maybe I spoke too soon.
Oh, here comes the score. My scorecard.
Oh, it prints.
Okay, what do we have here?
Also, only
That
das ist nur so groß eigentlich wie ein Fünfliber, wenn man will sagen. Nur so,
It's the
genau.
beginner's luck. Beginner's
Yeah.
luck.
Nice.
This is my scorecard here. My moosh. What's it called? Moosh. Moosh. I got the moosh. Yes, 300 meters away. I think that this bullet just traveled across the valley over the cars.
300 meters. Yeah,
and hit
damn. Okay.
A thing that's this big is pretty satisfying. So while I'm sitting here shooting bullseyes right below us, not only are there cars, but there's a guy just mowing the lawn. Like there's a guy mowing the lawn right there under the shooting range. This place is at once super buttoned up when it comes to guns and seemingly very relaxed.
That is so
but
cool,
it's not
man.
relaxed. As I visit these gun clubs, it's striking how much these feel like a magnet for community, a gathering place for the community, a collective activity and
Just
competition.
like the medieval-looking
that everyone in the
flags,
community
too.
can enjoy. I'm so used to guns being associated with danger and division and politics and fear, but here it just has such a different feel than what I'm used to.
Thank you.
Again, it really depends on kind of where you are in the U.S. Again, kind of being in an area like Chicago. Again, it really kind of depends on where you are in the U.S. I've been to some areas where it's just like, yeah, there's not really like a huge gun kind of community, but there are kind of shooters. And that's usually where you see like people who just go out to an area, kind of just shoot it, kind of trash it a bit. But yeah, again, here in Washington, and again, I think Washingtonians are a little bit better with just kind of being careful and considerate of not kind of just trashing the place. And also just kind of bettering themselves. So the community here is pretty awesome. So that's a huge thing I love about Washington. And it looks very much like this, except a little bit more exciting, I guess, as far as the execution.
So much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. This is really good.
It's been a really enlightening experience visiting all these shooting ranges. And what it's taught me is that guns here in Switzerland are a totally different thing than they are in America. Like, they're a completely different symbol. They have a very different purpose. They have a very different meaning. And that's kind of surprising to me because remember that the United States
I think it depends
on a lot of the
how you
same
want to see it too,
as Switzerland when it came to having a militia and having firearms in society as a form of collective defense. So to understand how these two gun cultures so greatly diverged despite having similar roots, you have to understand what happens after the Constitution, after the Second Amendment.
Also a very good point.
I have the right to protect my family and myself.
That dude.
What do you think about American gun culture? Like, what's the view? Bonkers. Like the fact that every
hell yeah.
It will make me feel uneasy. I'm used to being in the proximity of guns and a lot of guns. I don't know how you guys do it.
And if he tries to take our guns, he can take them from our cold dead hands.
There has been a shooting at a synagogue.
Get off of my porch right now.
Gun control, all it's going to do is take the guns out of the people that obey the law.
3 people are killed in Jacksonville, Florida today after what appears to be a racially motivated hate crime.
I feel like that happened a lot in Jacksonville when I was there.
The U.S. quickly learned that while a militia is great for defense, deterrence, and neutrality, it is not good for one thing: conquest. Beginning in the 19th century, the U.S. expanded west very quickly. They fought other European colonists and Native Americans for their land.
Destiny.
They would eventually fight each other in a civil war. These kinds of operations were too big for militias made up of everyday citizens. Instead, they needed to establish and fund a centralized, professional standing army. And this was just the beginning. By the time the 1900s rolled around, the US had grown into something that Switzerland never was, and probably never will be: an expansionist empire, using its sprawling permanent military to wield influence around
imagery
the
they
world. By the
used.
middle of the century,
Awesome.
it would become the largest and most powerful military to have ever existed. Because the U.S.
I like the
had a
Marine
huge
representation.
standing army, it did away with a lot of the original laws requiring people
An
to
AI
join
picture?
the militia. And now, without a duty to form a militia to protect the country from invasion and insurrection like the Constitution said, they were left with just the second half of this amendment: the right to bear arms, and how it should not be infringed. Guns started to become more of a personal tool, a tool to pursue their American dream, to hunt, to protect their family, to exterminate.
It's more like the Rambo style. It's not like I'm going shooting at the target. You don't
I don't know about
shooting
Rambo.
somewhere in the woods or in the forest. Just don't do that. You go to a shooting range and you get part of the community, and then your goal is not just to, shoot wherever there.
It also depends, like in New Jersey, where I'm from originally, there's like a pretty prominent shooting range and a lot of people go there. A lot of people have a lot of fun there. But New Jersey just doesn't have necessarily the amount of space, and it just doesn't necessarily have the amount of supports to do kind of more outdoorsy stuff. And even still, like there are a lot of areas here in Washington where you can go and kind of just shoot in the forest. And again, for the most part, people do a pretty good job of kind of maintaining it, or at least keeping it to certain areas, if you are going to be kind of tearing it up a little bit more. But yeah, I do kind of understand how it can go a little bit rampant sometimes. And I've seen it in some areas, not in Washington particularly, but there are certain areas where, you do have a shooting range and it kind of works out pretty well. But there's also areas where there's just like no shooting range and no areas to kind of shoot outside. So that's where you generally see people just kind of trying to find something to do, and it doesn't really work out the best.
Yeah, so your goal is to get better.
Yeah.
And your goal is not just to shoot around.
Guns continued to take on a more personal symbol in the 60s and 70s when more and more Americans were losing trust in their government. This was also right at the time when crime was skyrocketing in America.
Without this duty for collective defense, guns became more and more a symbol of personal defense from all of this crime, personal liberty, and a symbol of this growing anti-government sentiment. And as a result, the number of guns in America soared. The NRA, which, remember, after the Civil War started as a largely non-political group that was meant to just help Americans be more responsible and better marksmen, they got taken over in the 70s by a group of hardliners who wanted to change the agenda of the NRA, turning it into a political lobbying group that was set on reshaping the way Americans thought about the Second Amendment.
The NRA also has a lot of different opinions from gun people. A lot of different gun communities have some different opinions on what they think about the NRA. So in a weird way, it does kind of feel a little bit more commercialized sometimes.
And making sure that no legislation ever made it through that curtailed gun rights. They began pushing an interpretation of the Second Amendment that was about individual protection, a right to bear arms so that you can protect yourself, and trying to de-emphasize the connection to a well-regulated militia as the purpose for this right to bear arms.
In the face of this relentless onslaught of gun control schemes, you're the reason the Second Amendment still stands. You're the tip of the spear.
Like
You're
a
the
rave.
ones that make it possible for us every
rave?
day to defend this freedom.
And it totally worked. The Second Amendment became more and more a guarantee that everyone can have guns to protect themselves and their family, having nothing to do with protecting the country. After all, we had the biggest military in the world. We didn't need a militia anymore.
Don't let Hillary leave you protected with nothing but a phone. The NRA Political Victory
Oh,
Fund is responsible
jeez.
for the content of this advertising.
This interpretation
Golly, I
of
didn't see
guns
that
and
one.
the Second Amendment would become solidified in a 5-4 vote in the Supreme Court in 2008. When the court ruled that the Second Amendment guaranteed people to have guns, even when those guns have no relationship to an armed militia. So this is why the United States has more guns than any country on earth, because the courts are...
So I think he did that kind of in a pretty tasteful way as far as not being too biased in kind of how he's representing that. So well done. And also kind of talking about like the duty versus the right kind of aspect and how it's kind of shifted slightly. And I can see both points, but I think it does make a lot of sense in kind of how that culture has shifted a little bit more in the U.S. As far as how it's kind of talked about for the most part.
That guns are an individual right, a right to bear arms. Every year, 20,000 murders occur with a gun. Thousands of children and teens are killed with a gun. Hundreds of deaths are caused by gun accidents. Hundreds of mass shootings. And of course, the leading cause of gun violence, suicides. Tens of thousands of lives taken with guns. But we can't seem to do much about it because as long as guns remain an individual right, now deeply woven into American identity, any effort to try to pass reasonable laws to try to limit these countless deaths that we have in our country will continue to fail, especially...
Yeah, and I'll say the biggest thing from what I've seen with stuff like that is usually people don't come up with like a good kind of solution. I think there are a lot of reasonable people out there that kind of want to find a good compromise in between, because in one way you're not going to get rid of all the weapons in America. It's just not going to happen. At the same time, it's not going to have the desired effect as far as, you know, stopping these kind of crimes from happening. It's just going to, again, kind of hurts the average person who's, you know, has that ability to kind of defend themselves.
As the NRA continues to politicize guns, to use them to divide America, to scare America, and to make us feel like we need guns to be safe.
The facts are on our side. Guns save lives. And you'll never stop us from defending our family.
Why do they look so sweaty? It's a weird lighting and...
My last visit was an important
right
one, to this gun shop where the owner is Swiss, but is a card-carrying member of the NRA and a big fan of American gun culture. I had to get his take on this.
These are the best
Nice tats.
assault rifles in the world.
Really?
These are, yes.
Wow. What makes them so good? Why are they so good?
They're Swiss made.
Okay, I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Germans make some pretty good stuff.
What do you feel when you
And
look
Americans.
at American gun culture?
It's very, very interesting. from the gun system, from the gun laws, I would like to live in the States, but not with all the dumb asses around. I don't know why there are so many.
It's just idiots, yeah.
That's.
Well, it's just a lot of stupid people doing dumb shit. They don't get the right training. They don't respect firearms.
I don't know why. Why are the US citizens so stupid and let a loaded firearm there on the table with kids 1, 2, 3 years old?
Yeah. Especially just with super young kids, or just even with like older kids, and they don't necessarily teach them the responsibility of kind of firearms, or what firearms mean, or what they're capable of. Like again, like my 5 and 7-year-old, they're very comfortable with firearms. They know not to point at people. They know not to put their finger on the trigger when they're picking it up and whatnot. So there's ways that people handle it, and there's ways that people just kind of ignore it, or just refuse to believe that there's a threat in that kind of situation.
Some. Yeah. You know, our government, they support shooting clubs.
Yeah.
They do support ammo. They support shooting ranges.
Yeah.
They support the guys who are going to a shooting
Got a nice
range.
collection.
You need rules.
Yeah.
You need to have it.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna have like a rifle with him or something.
So, here's my conclusion in all of this. I went into this story thinking that I was going to tell a policy story, like how different policies would affect gun culture. And it totally took a different route, because I learned sort of halfway through that guns are a symbol. They are a symbol. Yes, they're a weapon. Yes, they are a sports tool, but they are also a symbol for the people who wield them. The way we see guns is deeply influenced by the stories and the myths of our societies. Switzerland and the United States have two very different stories, and because of that, they have two very different gun cultures. For Switzerland, having armed citizens who were trained with weapons is what kept them neutral and safe as a group, as a collective. The United States admired this and tried to copy it, and they did for a while. But soon, the demands of an expanding empire allowed that vision to fade and turned the meaning of guns into something different, making it a right for individuals to protect themselves.
They keep going back to that dude.
Are not used to protect people. That's not what they're used for. They're often used at a shooting range or hunting or to end someone's life. And yet to the people who hold fast to their firearms as a right, they feel like any change to that, any legislation to change
the guns you see during some of those things are wild.
Taking away of their right. So the way I see it, as long as guns are an individual right associated with personal protection and personal liberty, not a lot's going to change in America.
Colin Noir, okay.
We certainly don't stand a chance of having a culture anything like what we've seen here in Switzerland. And that's a shame to me. That's a shame.
Again, I think he did some very solid research for this video. And the shots, man. Imagine climbing to the top and then just forgetting you like don't have an SD card or something. Like he's got no room for water. He's just got like camera gear and audio gear. All right, very, very well done video, I gotta say. Yes, again, I think a lot of people will kind of go into this video thinking that I have some very strong opinions or just be kind of very against what he's saying, especially as like a gun person myself. But again, I think he did it very tastefully. I think he did a lot of very solid research. And again, he kind of, you know, had some different ways to look at the issues, kind of open up your perspective a bit to kind of understand how that culture has shifted a little bit, especially from, again, kind of how the Swiss culture looks like. But yeah, I think it's a very complex issue. Kind of scratching the surface with these kind of topics gets you to think about it in a different way, which I can appreciate. So yeah, very, very solid video, very well done, very well edited. And again, just some of those shots are insane. But yeah, this was very eye-opening. I did not know Switzerland was this crazy about guns, just like kind of Americans in that kind of regard. But very cool. I was kind of expecting to see maybe a little bit more like diversity in the guns, but a lot of them are kind of Swiss made, which makes a lot of sense, especially if they're kind of, you know, providing them or what have you, or I guess kind of being the conduit to make sure that everybody has one. But super interesting to kind of think that they can kind of walk around on public transportation and that everybody, again, has that mandatory obligation to be trained up on them. Or I think he said maybe it was just like the males, but yeah, very, very solid video. This was recommended to me a lot after the bunker video went out, and I definitely understand why. It was just, again, very solid video, very solid channel. I would recommend you guys check out his channel because, wow, that is very, very well done. I will put the original video down in the description so you guys can go and check that out and go check out his channel because, yeah, he does some great stuff. But yeah, definitely interesting. Let me know what you guys think about this, especially as an American, as someone who's from Switzerland. Let me know what you guys think about the kind of diversity and kind of how the I guess, mindset difference is like between the two countries. Or if you're in another country, kind of what the mindset is like in that country and kind of how that differs or makes like the gun policy a little bit different as well. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. A little bit of a longer one, but definitely you want to check this thing out in its entirety. Very cool video. But that is it for this one. I'll see you all in the next one.